anything on our agenda first thing this morning? Do you have anything?
I don't have anything.
Okay, we'll recess. Got a recess? In session, we're back in, okay. What you got, Jason?
Okay, I'm gonna kind of fill you guys in on, I told you last Monday there was a pretty good chance I would get sent to somewhere in the state as mutual aid, emergency manager, incident commander, type person. And I did get sent on Monday. And as soon as I find all my pictures, I'm going to show you guys what we had going on up there. If I can find it. If not, we'll do it next week. And I did all that for nothing. This is what I saw when I first got there off of Highway 169, looking to the west. There are 37 houses that they know of that had water all the way up to the roof line. They didn't even count the number of cars that were submerged. But in total, they had 87 houses, 14 duplexes, 39 mobile homes, and 49 apartment units that were destroyed by the flooding.
Where is this at?
This is Osawatomie. I'm sorry, that's where I got sent, was Osawatomie. We had 250 people evacuated and in shelter. No drinking water to the entire town. And basically they had themselves a mess. Their disaster went a little more long-lived, I guess, than our tornadoes, and so by the time we got there on Monday, their local people were they were through. I mean, they were completely overwhelmed. They sent myself, a couple other people from Anderson County, captain from the Topeka Police Department, and emergency manager from Marshall County. And we went in there and assessed the situation, and I made contact with the local people that were in control of the incident. And they realized that they were over their heads, and they basically just wanted to be able to make decisions about how they were going to do things that would affect their town, and they wanted somebody to just take over and be the incident commander, which is
What river runs along there?
The river as you're looking there back to the north, that's Highway 169. The Meridazine River runs across the north part of Osawatomie, and Pottawatomie Creek runs across the south side. The city's protected by levees. The levees never failed. They were completely overtopped by about 4 feet. The town inside, basically, the center of town sits on a hill, so all the water drains back against the levees and floods all the outlying parts of town. But as soon as I got there, I got to help the Osawatomie Fire Department rescue 3 people out of the river. I thought it'd be a good time to take their canoe out. That was exciting, but that's not really why they send us there. They don't send us there to do that kind of stuff. They send us there to help them get a long-term plan of action, decide some objectives, and start trying to tackle the whole problem. Just because of the experience that I had here and before I came here, the first day I spent doing planning, just coming up with a long-term plan for them. Once we had that plan, I spent the next 48 hours as the incident commander, just making sure that everything went the way I thought it should go. And they brought a battalion chief from Overland Park Fire Department in as my relief, and we spent the day on Thursday with him just shadowing me and me catching him up on what we were doing, so there'd be a seamless transition into from me running things into him running things. And I guess the reason I bring all this up is that if we had something more serious, I mean, I don't want to say the tornadoes weren't serious, but we were able to handle that pretty well here. We had a little bit of outside help from the state, but if we had that situation again, and maybe it was worse, and there's a chance that this is what we would do. We'd make a phone call, they'd send a team of people in here that had a lot of experience, that they don't come in and take control from the local entity. That's not what they're there for. It's not what we did. But they come in and they're just a resource that you can use. It's an excellent program, and it works all across the state. There's folks right now. There was us in Osawatomie, and there was people all the way down to Coffeyville who, you know, they had their hands full. They had it worse than Osawatomie did. And then the scary thing is you can take a county like Lynn County, which Lynn County is one county south of where we were. They have an emergency manager there, apparently, or their emergency manager is off on leave for health reasons, and the person they put in as the emergency manager, apparently he didn't even realize that there was any help available, or didn't want it for whatever reason. And we got a call. They called the sheriff there, Frank Kelly, in Osawatomie. One of the state senators called him and said, because he toured the Lynn County area, they had about 150 homes flooded countywide, and somebody had told the state senator, we're not getting any help. And what he found out was they weren't getting any help because they hadn't asked for it. And the state EOC in Topeka actually called down there, and the guy told him, oh no, this water will go down in a couple of days. And the state actually, they actually called me, and they said, since you're running that one right now, can you call this guy for us and see if you can talk him into something. And when I got off the phone with him, I felt pretty good. I felt like I could sell ice to Eskimos, because when I got done, I had the guy agree to let Topeka send a 5-man team down there, and they still had people flooded in houses that were gone up to the second floor of a farmhouse, and they had no way out, and they were still in the houses. And he wouldn't, he didn't want to send boats in, because he said, well, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. By the time we get them out there, you know it'll be dark. I mean, it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. When we first heard it, I thought, surely there's nobody that would not call for help. But there are places out there that still, still like that. And thank God for mutual aid and for programs like this, because these folks up there in Osawatomie, I don't know what they'd have done if we wouldn't have got sent up there. And they made it real clear that they really appreciated what we did.
Did everyone get evacuated then? Did these evacuated then?
They did. They had most of that done before I even got on the ground up there. I think I had. I got pictures of our command post. I don't know. You guys have wireless up here, right? Down my email. Okay. I won't show you the picture of the command post. I can't seem to bring it in. But that's what I did for 3 days last week. And they wanted me to, I talked to their mayor and their city council. One of their city councilwomen was real involved with setting up a relief shelter. And they wanted me to make it known to you that they really appreciated me being able to go up there and do something like that for them. And of course, you know, they say, if anything ever happens down there, well, and if anything ever does, you know, we can ask pretty much for whatever we want from the state, and we can expect to get it by the next morning. And I'm really glad to know that we have that out there.
You probably had some experience with flooding being from Memphis, haven't you?
Yeah, they had some down there, and problem is the flooding in Memphis it didn't happen all that often. We only really had one when I was there, and it's happened so many times. It's happened so many times that, and it seems to always happen in the same part of town, that they've got this plan worked out.
All worked out already.
They know if the water comes up to this height, this is what's gonna flood. I mean, they've got it all worked out. And, I mean, after seeing what they had, I would say that, as bad as it sounds, I'd take a tornado like we had over what they had any day. Because there's so many psychological aspects of that are just devastating. I mean, at least if you get hit by a tornado, look at your house, and you know you can tell what you got. There's so many people down there that their house flooded, and we got all the water out, and they don't understand, because they can go back and they can see their house standing there, but it had water all the way up to the 8-foot ceiling, and they don't understand why we won't let them back in their house. They don't understand why anything that was in that flood water is ruined, and it's really hard on them. And even before I left, we were already having mold problems. Mold grows that fast. And if a house gets water above the electrical outlets, it's done. If it sits in it for a long period of time, it's done. And that's hard for a lot of them to take. And you know, if you have a tornado, most people have insurance, and up there, I think that they had 2 people that were flooded that actually had flood insurance, and everybody else didn't. It basically flooded the lower income, paycheck to paycheck parts of town that were renters. And on top of that, a lot of those houses are paid for. Landlords own. From the ones they've already talked to, they don't really have plans to build back. I mean, for what they're renting the house for, the cost for them to build it new, it just wouldn't be feasible. And they're planning on just demolition and finding another house. The problem is then ultimately the city is going to get stuck with the 15% of the disaster, just the way we are from ours. But in the next year, from the number of houses they had damaged, they're expecting about 10 or 15% drop in their property valuation. So now you've got all these bills you've got to pay, and you've got less money coming in. So you either raise your taxes, either raise your mill levy, or you make do with less. And so it's not a problem that'll end for them when all the water goes. It's something they're going to deal with for the next several years.
But Coffeyville's same thing, what the oil said too.
And Coffeyville's a good point. They're really gonna, I mean, the number of homes they have damaged in Coffeyville, if those aren't rebuilt, you're looking at a big enough financial impact to the city where it'll be questionable without a huge raise in the mill levy if they can even maintain the same level of services that they were before the storm. Not to mention that every inch of ground that has that oil, that when the water recedes and the oil deposits on top of that ground, the EPA is going to make them dig all that out. And we're talking that, I mean, it covers about half of the town where the oil got into the water. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. And they have a huge mess down there. I mean, we're talking, you know, we had some little oil spills out here with the flooding, but we're talking 42,000 gallons of oil. That's a lot of oil. That's a lot. They can see it from the air. I've seen aerial photos of it, and it's 15 miles into Oklahoma. So, and we're, you know, there's a lot of stories coming out now, but the one I keep hearing pretty consistently is that it's possible that tank didn't just overtop, that they were trying to get some of that moved off site and kind of had a problem. That's been reported on several news outlets and kind of been discussed, and it just goes to show how important it is if you've got major players like that, or if we've got a biodiesel plant here eventually, that when you get key players like that, how you have to keep them involved in your emergency plans, and they have to know what you do and don't want them to do. so that you prevent things like that from happening. A lot of lessons to be learned out there.
Well, thanks. I guess we'll recess. Everything else this morning, anyone?
And nothing,
Ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
We are adjourned.